Hey everybody, welcome back. This is a married couple drama that lit up Am I the A-hole? All rise for the Honorable Judge Charlotte. You may be seated. Am I the a-hole for putting my wife on a strict allowance and making her ask me permission to buy expensive things? When we were married, we decided not to fully combine our finances. Okay, that's kind of messy, I feel like. Okay, fair, not traditional. Not sure how you facilitate that, but like, good to know. We have a shared account in which I fund 3/4 and she funds 1/4. We use this account to pay the mortgage, utilities, grocery, etc. We also have our separate accounts where we deposit the rest of our money. Interesting. I've never heard of this before. We're responsible for our own investments and cars. Things all worked well for a couple of years until recently when she came to me crying. Turns out my wife is not good with her money.
No way.
And owes $150,000. Ooh, that's not good. Spread over several credit cards. Whoa, dude. How do you even get to that point?
Observe.
And her car loan. Unless she wins the lottery, there's no way she would be able to pay off her debt, and I didn't want her to mess up her credit by declaring bankruptcy. At that point, you're literally just being careless. I'm sorry. It's one thing to have even like $20,000 in debt. I feel like the vast majority of people are in debt. This is something very normal. If you're not in debt, congratulations. You make up literally like 20% of the population. However, $150,000, bestie, that's a lot. What are you spending that money on?
What the hell is that?
An alpaca. I got the last one.
I feel like she was just careless and just figured,
Oh, my husband will bail me out.
no. This is like divorce fuel. I decided to loan her the money. To pay off the debt on strict conditions. I will take over her finances, including receiving her income. God, this feels like a parent-child relationship, not a marriage. I get that she owes you money, but I just feel like this is just not good. She will be placed on a strict allowance and a budget. She will have to ask permission to buy anything over $50 and has to go by my judgment. Once she pays me back the money, she can take control of her own finances. That could take a while. It's $150,000. Most people don't make that in a year. She argued against the conditions. I mean, she probably would, yeah. But I mean, how else is she gonna get out of this? I don't really feel like she's in a position to be like choosing how she's gonna get out of this debt. She argued the conditions until I pointed out I don't have $150,000 in cash stuffed in the couch. I will have to sell some assets, including stocks that are currently performing well. If I loan her the money, it will cost me money. She finally agreed. This weekend, we were at a dinner party where after too many drinks, some of the women decided they wanted to take a girls' trip a few weekends from now. My wife turned to me and asked me if she could go, and I answered no, it's not in her budget. I'll spare you the details of the argument that erupted, but the TLDR version is that I'm a misogynist pig who keeps her on a leash.
Yes, Daddy.
That would be true if she didn't put herself on that leash. Some argued I should have bailed her out without conditions because there should be none in a marriage. Like, you also married someone who's like incredibly careless with their money. The hurtful part is that she didn't once defend me. You agreed to pay off this massive debt and then she didn't defend you? Like, she didn't like tell her friends that, you know, you were helping her out of a bind? Was I wrong to put all those conditions on her? There are a lot of people watching this who will probably feel as though a marriage should come without conditions. It is not traditional to like keep your finances separate like that, but I have a feeling that you also had a feeling that this might happen. Let's be sure when we're marrying people that we also align on finances. Be prepared. Because when you marry someone, you take on their financial decisions. Unless, of course, you keep it separate. I think under the circumstances and your current situation, I don't think it's wrong to have put those parameters on her. She's in no position to be going on a girls' trip and spending thousands of dollars. This is her showing her spending habits. Even when she's $150,000 in debt, she still wants to spend. That's not how it works, babes. You spend the money when you got the money. Don't spend money thinking that you're gonna have money, because sometimes that doesn't work out. We have an update and some more context.
Bring it on.
I read some of your comments at lunch and continue to read them. When I got home from work, she started another round of arguments about the trip. Okay, so I was like kind of thinking maybe she was like drunk. She didn't mean what she said, but that's not the case. Cool. Okay. I pointed out she has no money, at which point she pointed out she hasn't hit the limit on one of her credit cards. This is why we're in debt. And that card should cover her for a weekend. So I drove back to my office and will spend the night here to answer some of the questions questions that may be brewing in your head. 1. Our shared account pays for everything in the house. For example, a few weeks ago, we bought a new cookware set from Costco, and that money came out of the shared account, which you contribute 3/4 of, and she contributes 1/4, and she's still in debt. She works a full-time job. Minus her contribution to the shared account, the rest of her income is hers to spend as she wishes. I cover things we do together like dinners, dates, and vacations. Okay. The principal amount she owes is about $120,000, of which about half is her car loan. The rest consists of interest and late fees. If we can't even pay interest and late fees, we can't be spending, bestie. I didn't bring up her debt in front of her friends because I wanted to protect her reputation. How good of you. I haven't liquidated anything. I'm working with my advisor and broker and deciding what to liquidate to take the least financial and tax hit. She doesn't gamble. I looked over her bills and it looks like she spent money on dinners, drinks, and shopping with her friends. Yeah, she's got a little spending problem. Not little, large spending problem. We've been married for less than 5 years and do not have children. We started talking about a family in a couple of years. This is a sticky situation. I fail to understand how your wife isn't eternally grateful that you have bailed her out of this situation. I feel like she racked up that debt thinking that you would bail her out and didn't think about the consequences. Honestly, I genuinely feel like you should have just let her learn the lesson on her own. I used to be irresponsible with money. Very irresponsible. I made some bad decisions. But eventually I had to start taking responsibility for my bad decisions. Not the a-hole. Your wife is seriously irresponsible, and it seems that when you bailed her out, she didn't learn a lesson. It's the thing, right? If you come to the rescue, there are no consequences. Real world consequences. She and her friends put you on the spot like that, hoping the pressure would force you to say yes. A normal person would have realized the mess they had made and realized they can't spend frivolously with $150,000 in debt hanging over their heads. But this just shows your wife's attitude. Good luck getting your money back. Yeah. I'm a little confused as to how she still has a credit card. Cut it up. Cut those little moves up. Dangerous little things. If you're not careful, those credit cards can just get a little out of control. You know what I'm saying? OP, make her destroy her credit cards and cancel them with you as a witness. Then don't tell her beforehand, freeze her credit. Sure, she can unfreeze it since it is her credit, but maybe that extra step will help with the cards. How do you even get $150 in credit limits when you owe so much? My husband and I make well over that, and we don't have that much in cards. That is a very good point. How are you even able to spend that much? It's the car loan, apparently. But yeah, that's a pretty substantial debt to rack up. Shouldn't have bailed her out. You'll never get the money back, and this won't end well. She already resents you. You can't stop someone who wants to financially destroy themselves from doing it. It's like saying OP should hide all the alcohol in the house. It's putting a band-aid on a sucking chest wound. OP needs to have a real conversation with his wife and to seriously consider divorce. It'll destroy him financially in the short term, but better that than forever. All right, in my eyes, I'm going to agree with Reddit on this one, and I'm going to say you're not the a-hole. Is this divorce worthy? You tell me. I feel like we read these sometimes and we're too quick to say, oh, divorce her, divorce her. Is this a divorce worthy offense? You let me know how you feel. Moving on. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that if he pays me my hourly rate, I will do more housework? I'm a steam fitter. What's a steam fitter? Steam fitter.
Just do my reason.
Layout, assemble, install, maintain pipe system, pipe supports, or related hydraulic or pneumatic equipment for steam, hot water, heating, cooling, lubricating, sprinkling, or industrial production of processing systems. I cannot believe I said that in one take, bestie. So she's a steam fitter. I've been at it for a while and I'm in supervision. With bonuses and incentives, but not counting benefits, I earn over $100 an hour. Ooh, get your coin, bestie. Nice. I also work out of town. I started doing that once the kids were old enough to take care of themselves with their dad at home. So when my youngest was in middle school and the oldest was a junior in high school. It is great. I love that for you, bestie. I love that. Our retirement savings are piling up and we've been able to splurge on the kids and ourselves. My husband is upset, however, because I decided to pay for a cleaning lady. Hold on. I find that housework tends to come between a couple. My mother told me that the main things that couples fight about are housework and money. So if you can kind of remove the housework from the equation, leave it up to somebody else. If you're financially able, which they are, I don't see why not. He and I discussed it and we agreed that him and the kids didn't do a great job keeping the house clean and tidy while I was away. I hated coming home to a mess. It caused a few fights because it was like they expected me to come home and clean up after them. No. know. That's some weaponized incompetence if I've ever seen it. The last thing that you want to do when you get home from a trip or from work or whatever is clean up after other people. And I'm sorry, bestie, but like, you earning your own money. If you want to spend your money on a cleaning lady, ¿qué pasa? What's the problem? Is that actually ¿qué pasa? I don't actually know if that means. Guys, I speak Spanish now. Having her is fantastic. I come home to a clean house and I'm happier. Love that for you. I also like cleanliness. I like things to be clean. I don't like seeing little dust bunnies everywhere. My kids have more time to study and do extracurriculars. They still have chores and they are still expected to clean up after themselves. Sounds like a win-win to me. My husband came to me last time I was home and said we should cut back on the service when I'm home. That I should be doing more housework. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's he doing?
Absolutely nothing.
He can't do the housework? We've got a working woman here making lots of money. That kind of thinking only works if you're the breadwinner and she's staying home all day, doesn't have a job. He thinks that we are wasting money. I wouldn't say that, bestie. To me, having a clean house and having good mental health because your space is clean is a worthy expense. It could be a luxury in some people's eyes, but to me, it's a worthy expense. I said that I work 14 days in a row and those are 13-hour days. Ooh, definitely not coming home and cleaning after that. Yes, it's mostly paperwork, but his job as a teacher isn't much more physically challenging. I said that I could offer him two options. If he wanted, we can get completely rid of the service and him and the kids can make sure the house is in good shape when I get home. Or he could pay me my hourly rate and do extra housework when I'm on my days off. I think that's totally fair. He is upset with me and says I'm being financially manipulative. No, bestie, he's weaponizing incompetence against you. I think if he and the kids actually did what they're supposed to do when I'm away, none of this would be an issue. She's got a point. Having a cleaning lady there all the time, like it definitely could be expensive. However, my issue is that he expects her to take on the duties of the cleaner and to come home and clean up after everybody else after she's been working for 13 hours. No, that's not going to happen. Either contribute or shut the f up. I know how I feel about this, but let's see what Reddit had to say. So you can afford it. Everything gets done. Everybody has free time. No one has to do stuff they don't want to do. There aren't any fights over it. I mean, there really is no downside and everybody wins. Him getting upset because you said if the maid goes, he'll have to do his fair share is very telling. Right? It'd be one thing if he was like, okay, we're wasting money. I will contribute more. But no, he's saying he wants you to do the housework. You're not home to make the messes, but you're supposed to work that much and come home and clean up after him just because he wants to save money while getting to sit on his ass. People like your husband always reinforce my decision to stay single, not the a-hole. People are getting a little upset about this one, and rightfully so. I feel like this resonates with a lot of people. Not the a-hole, he's free to clean the house he lives in.
Damn right.
You offered a great solution, one that benefits everybody. I think that that's like a fair expense. If that's what makes you happy, coming home to a clean house after a long day at work, if that's what makes you happy, then that's a fair expense. I'm sorry, you both work demanding jobs. You're sometimes requiring you to travel, but you should be taking care of the housework. Why? Because you're the wife? For f***ing sakes, it's 2024. You're both adults. You co-manage the household. If he wants the place cleaner, he can either help clean or pay for a cleaner. Pretending his wife is a maidservant is not an option, not the a-hole. All right, I'm gonna agree with Reddit on this one. Like, it is a little controversial. Some of you are gonna get upset, but I don't care. Not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for not letting my wife hijack a free vacation? Ooh, we got a lot of entitlement in this video. One of my 39 male hobbies is entering raffles, sweepstakes, radio contests, etc. I've won tickets to concerts, sporting events, some household items, gift cards, but never a grand prize like a car or vacation. I've never tried to win anything like that because I just feel like there's such a small chance. But maybe everybody else feels that way and they're not actually entering things, which would increase the likelihood of winning. Until last month when I won a free trip for 4 to Florida for 5 nights. Obviously, I was super excited and I told my wife, 38 female, about it right away. After our initial excitement wore off and we started talking about details, it became apparent that we had conflicting ideas about this trip. Before I could even make suggestions about what I want this trip to be, my wife brought up how excited her 11-year-old daughter would be and how we could go to Disney, SeaWorld, etc. She then said we can bring her mom to help watch her daughter so that we could have some some time for ourselves. Oh, okay. I mean, it's a suggestion, but you don't have to take that suggestion if that's not what you want to do. Not everybody wants to hang out with their mother-in-law. She was so excited about it and was getting wrapped up in planning things without even hearing what I wanted. I told her, all of that sounds fun, but I was thinking we can invite another couple and have it be an adult-only trip instead of bringing my stepdaughter and mother-in-law with. I mean, it is your trip. Like, maybe we could have also included the daughter in the planning, but at the end of the day, it is something that you won, not something that she won. She did not like my idea one bit and told me that she wouldn't feel right taking a free trip like that and leaving her daughter behind. I guess that's also fair. She said that her mom has never been to Florida and this would be a perfect opportunity for her to go there. We argued back and forth a little bit before deciding to take a break and come back to it before telling anyone about it. It is interesting that instead of wanting to take your family, you kind of wanted to take another couple. Maybe you just really needed, you know, an adult trip, not necessarily a trip that's about someone else's kid who's also kind of your kid, but I digress. Well, that lasted about 24 hours before my wife let it slip to her daughter that I had won a trip. Oh no. Right, so now you can't say no without telling the daughter, right? So of course, stepdaughter immediately got excited about it and started looking to all the things she wants to do. Ooh. I asked my wife why she told her daughter, and she said it was an accident, which, come on. It started a fight between us and emotions got a little high. I told her she was wrong to bring her daughter into this after we agreed to wait, and that I never agreed to take stepdaughter or mother-in-law on this trip. I told her I was the one who won the trip and she was acting like this was something specifically for her. Yeah, it's the entitlement for me. It's a little entitled, what the wife is doing. She told me I was being selfish and that we should include those closest to us in something like this, especially whether neither stepdaughter or mother-in-law have been to Florida. She said that bringing another couple and leaving her daughter home would be cruel, especially now that she's so excited about it. Ah, there it is. There it is. How convenient. I told her that her daughter is only excited about it because she decided to blab about it instead of waiting like we had agreed. I told her if she wants to bring her daughter and mother-in-law, then she can pick someone else to go with because I would rather stay home by myself than go on a vacation where I don't get to be involved in any of the decisions. I said that if she wants to go that route, she certainly can, but I'm not paying for any of it. We have separate finances. Oh, another one, eh? Interesting. Now she thinks I'm being a jerk and should be happy about having a free family trip. You're not a jerk because you don't want to pay for that. Edit, the trip is to Fort Myers, not Orlando. I think that's like a 3-hour drive. You're closer to Naples than you are to Orlando. Hey, if you end up going, make sure you check out the Blue Martini. Shit is lit on a Saturday night. I think maybe a way to kind of cool the jets a little bit is if you want an adult-only trip with your wife, you take an adult-only trip, and then maybe, you know, down the line, you can plan a trip to Disney World with your stepdaughter and your mother-in-law. It's your trip at the end of the day, and you're deciding what you want to do with it. Not the a-hole. While I see both sides of the coin, what it comes down to is that you won the trip. You should get to decide how it's used. I would certainly be bummed if my spouse won a trip and then wanted to take it without me, but that's not what's happening here. And I think your wife's insistence on controlling this and her judgment of you for not having the same vision of the trip are really unfair. I agree. That makes a lot of sense. I think that if she wants to plan a trip like that, then maybe she should try and enter a contest or maybe save up for that sort of thing. It's not like it's a never thing. It's not like you can never go to Florida. It's just like for this particular trip, maybe the husband kind of wants it to be, you know, a little bit of a break instead of a trip to Disney World where the mother-in-law is there and it's more about the child than it is about you. Because that's what happens, right? If you're going to Disney World, granted, I love Disney World as an adult, but like, if that's not the vibe, it's not the vibe. You aren't a bad person or a bad stepfather for wanting to take an adult trip. Lots of couples do this. It's not cool of her to act like you're crappy for having another idea. I mean, she should have heard you out before she decided what she wanted to do with that trip. It can be a collaborative thing, but at the end of the day, it's not her trip. And I agree with you, it was especially out of line for her to tell her daughter, accidentally or not, about the trip, because she knew that would make it harder on you. Really not cool. It's not an accident. It's a little manipulative. The other thing that stands out to me is how you initially only refer to your stepdaughter as your wife's daughter. And I noticed that too, which is why I was like, interesting choice of words. I don't know if it's your child. Like, maybe you could be kind of considering that, at least for the future. She clearly thinks of her daughter first in these scenarios, and maybe you don't. Right, probably because it's not your child. I'm sure if you had a child, you would think of them first. Interesting that you chose her daughter as a way to describe it. Yeah, and there's a lot of people in this Reddit thread that are kind of like saying it's kind of weird that you're marrying someone and your initial thought is not to include the daughter when you're making like trip plans. It's going to be hard for you to find a way to put up your daughter while you're away. You're going to have to find a babysitter, et cetera, which is an additional expense. You know, I kind of see both sides of this as well. At the end of the day, though, it is his choice what he wants to do. It's just like whether or not he's being an a-hole. I'm gonna leave that up to you. You let me know how you feel. This is good. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm peeking out my window to watch this neighbor drama unfold. Am I the a-hole for exposing my toxic neighbor's double life, ruining her engagement, and cutting her off after years of manipulation? Do tell. Rise for the Honorable Judge Charlotte. All of these stories are from the Charlotte Dobre YouTube subreddit. This is a story I've shared parts of before in this group. Some of you may recognize pieces of it, but here's the full version. It's a long one, so brace yourselves. Everybody strap in, going for a bumpy ride. So let me introduce Aria, 24 female, my ex-friend and next door neighbor. Aria, on the surface, is perfect.
In quotations. Perfect.
She's tall, fair-skinned, beautiful, the kind of girl people instantly notice. But here's the problem. Aria is a manipulative, narcissistic, victim-playing nightmare. The best kind of nightmare. She always finds a way to make herself the victim, even when she's the one at fault. For a while, when it was all about small things, I tolerated it. But then, last October, everything blew up. The affair with a married man and the insanity that followed. One afternoon, Aria showed up at my house crying hysterically. I was in the middle of my house chores when she suddenly hugged me, sobbing uncontrollably. I thought something serious had happened. Maybe someone hurt her? Maybe there was a tragedy. Nope. She finally said,
I have to tell you something.
and then she dropped a bombshell. She's been having an affair with her boss, a man at least 10 years older than her, married, with 2 kids at home. Okay. She knows that, I'm assuming. Now, you'd think she'd at least admit that this was a mess, but no, she painted it as some sort of tragic love story. According to her, this man told her things like,
I don't love my wife. Being intimate with my wife feels like I'm with a lifeless corpse. I'd leave her for you.
but he didn't, did he? This is the thing about getting involved with someone who's in a relationship. When things go wrong, which they inevitably will, like this will never be like the happy ending that you're picturing it. It will be messy in more ways than one. I'm sorry, but I have no sympathy. Like, I really don't. And Aria, she was actively pushing him to divorce his wife. But here's where it gets even crazier. They had a backup plan. If he couldn't divorce his wife, they planned to have her marry his brother-in-law so Aria could keep seeing him while living in the same house.
Oh, that's up.
Who devised this plan? Because this doesn't seem very smart. Oh, you could just marry a spare and cheat on him with me. Perfect! And also couldn't divorce his wife. If he really wanted to divorce his wife, he would. It's not that simple though. Like sometimes when you read all these things, you're like, why don't you just get divorced? It's a lot more complicated than that. Divorces get ugly. They take half of everything you own if you don't have a prenup. Even when you have a prenup. Sometimes there's, courts that will say, sorry, this is unconscionable. They owe you, half of everything. That's why you gotta be very careful who you marry. So eventually his wife found out, not surprising. She called Aria, told her to back off, and the guy suddenly stopped talking to her. Now, instead of moving on, Aria brought all this drama into the office. She was making sad faces, throwing tantrums, crying in front of everyone. Okay, this is like a really big problem. I'm sorry. Like, I can just picture this being like, because he's the boss, so she could like essentially say, oh, he had power over me, etc. This is an HR nightmare, I'm just saying. Eventually, her senior manager, who didn't know about the affair, suggested she take a break, but she kept pushing. She'd call the guy at night, text him and his wife, beg him to come back. Things escalated, and one day her boss finally told her to stay home for a month. That's when she ran to my house again, crying like the world was ending. I tried to calm her down, telling her to focus on her exams and take a break as an opportunity to relax, but she refused to let go. Some days she'd be like,
I don't need him.
the next day she'd be sobbing.
I need him back.
It was a cycle of obsession. I understand that maybe she loves the guy. You kind of dug your own grave here, Aria. Nothing good can come from something like this. You got involved with a married man. 9 times out of 10, the married man is going to choose his wife and children. It's just too difficult. Maybe he wants to have his cake and eat it too, and he was saying those things because he wanted to be able to have the affair. But in my view, this dude was never gonna leave his wife. One day, she snapped. He made me cry. I'll ruin his life. See? And that's when I realized I was dealing with someone dangerous. Ooh, no, I simply can't no more. Tell me everything. The serial dating and gold digging phase. To keep her from doing anything crazy, I started taking her out shopping, to dinner, for fun. But one thing I noticed, she never wanted to pay. If I paid, everything was great. But the moment she had to pay, she'd ask for my share later. At the same time, she was juggling 1, trying to get back with her ex from 2021, 2, seeking 2 different guys on the side and hooking up with them, 3, emotionally manipulating a guy in London, pretending they were in a relationship when he had no idea. Yes, she was in a relationship in her head. Ooh, this girl is boy crazy. The hair appointment that started a war. Her bike broke down and she asked to borrow mine. I told her, fine, but I have a hair appointment at 10 a.m. so I need it back by 9:30. She agreed. The next morning, I might be late. I told her I couldn't change my plans and suddenly she exploded. Screaming over text, calling me selfish, saying I never bend for anyone. Ugh, the fact that you live near this person. Ugh. I ignored her, left for my appointment and enjoyed my day. She showed up at my house, banging on my door, screaming and breaking my doorbell. I told her to leave, she refused, and at that moment, I snapped. I slapped her across the face. Oh no. And I wear gemstone rings. That slap left a mark. Fast forward to January 2025, her parents, fed up with her, arranged a marriage for her. And guess what? The guy she chose was one of my old college seniors. He came to visit her house, saw my car, and realized I lived there. Excitedly, he called me. Hey, funny coincidence. I'm marrying someone from your society. When he said Aria's name, I had 2 choices. Save out of it or save my friend from hell. I told him everything.
Spit it out!
I mean, it wasn't your business, but is it really gossiping if you're just warning people? You're just sharing the facts. You saved him. His family hired a private investigator. They found out even more dirt than I knew. The wedding was called off. Aria lost her mind. She blamed me for ruining her life, trashed me in front of everyone, and told people I was jealous of her. Much to be jealous of, babe. Jealous of what? A serial cheater who ruined her own life? So, am I the a-hole for slapping my toxic ex-friend, cutting her off, and telling my friend the truth before he married her? Or should I just have let her continue down her path of destruction? I mean, it would be one thing if you sabotaged it with information that wasn't true. It's an entirely different thing that all you did was tell the truth and warn someone. I mean, I definitely want to know if someone I was about to marry, was in a relationship with a married man, obviously didn't think cheating was a big deal, behaved this way, serial cheater, serial dater. I'd want to know these things. And then if he finds all these things out and he still wants to marry her, then there's no sweat off your back, right? You did what you were supposed to do. And believe me, there are some people who would suck it up and continue dating that person or marrying that person. Not the a-hole for standing up for yourself and saving someone from an absolute nightmare. I don't know about the slap though. Not a fan of actual violence. I tend to agree. I don't usually need to resort to it. FYI, she will continue down her path of destruction probably forever. OP responds, fair enough. I'm not usually one to resort to that either, but she was in full chaos mode and I had to protect myself. As for her, yeah, she's her own worst enemy at this point. It's not that I don't condone violence. I'm kidding. It's just she sounds like she's unhinged, and because you slapped her, that could come back to hurt you. Some people really do need to slap. Really, they do. I think a lot of the world's problem would be solved if you could just slap someone. Hurt you in the future, be charged with assault or whatever. Some people do need a good slap. They do, okay? They do. Doesn't mean you should, but I don't blame you. From a legal sense, we shouldn't be slapping people. From a moral sense as well. So, are you the a-hole for exposing your toxic neighbor's double life, ruining her engagement and cutting off her after years of manipulation? No. But don't slap people, I get it. Violence is never the answer. Moving on. Am I the a-hole for not answering when my next door neighbors rang my doorbell? Next case. Throwaway account because someone mentioned is on here. Oh, okay. On here, are they in the group? Oh, I love it when the girlies are fighting. I, female 18, live in a somewhat private neighborhood. It's nice, quiet, but not far from town, so I don't feel like I'm living in the middle of nowhere. I and my family, mom, dad, and younger brother 16 and sister 12, move into this house about 1.5 years ago, after my dad got a promotion, which resulted in him leaving the province for work trips more often. Remember this for later. Both parents, but more so my dad, have the option of sometimes working from home, only having to go into the office about once a week for my dad and 3 to 4 times every 2 weeks for my mom. When we first moved in, the neighbors living on both sides came to give us a couple of housewarming presents, which consisted of food and baked goods, which my father was especially grateful for so he wouldn't have to do any cooking for the first few days of unpacking. Ooh, so thoughtful. I don't even think he knew which boxes had all the cooking utensils. It was really nice of them, and we became good friends over the next few months. On our left, there's a family of 4. Mom, dad, and 2 brothers aged 12 and 13. On our right is a sweet old couple who've been living in the neighborhood for the past 15 years. Dad from the family of 4 works in oil, so he leaves periodically every 1.5 months. Then has around the same time at home before flying off again to some other remote place around the world. Since the dad makes bank, the mom is a stay-at-home mom. Me and the mom, we'll call her Linda, hit it off immediately. I would go over to their house at least once a week to chat, despite my busy schedule, with it being my last year in high school. Whenever Linda needed to run an errand, I would watch the boys free of charge, which wasn't too bad as they were generally well raised, though the younger ones somewhat had a hard time listening to instructions. When they got a new puppy, I voluntarily dog sat him and took him out for walks. Oh, you're being quite nice, but I mean, they were also really nice to you. This is like the way neighbors should treat each other. The younger brother, who we'll call James, could be a bit rough with the puppy, and despite my request for him to be gentle with it as it was still young, James refused, and I eventually had to bring it up with Linda as I was getting concerned. She had a talk with him and the rough behavior ceased. 4 days ago, I was alone in my house, which was nice because my family can be quite loud sometimes and it can get overwhelming. I was studying for an upcoming exam in language and literature, which is my worst subject. Safe to say, I was stressed. Headphones on. I didn't realize the doorbell was ringing until I saw James out of the corner of my eye out the window as my room faces the front of the house. However, when I went to answer the door, no one was there. Confused, I chalked it up to pre-exam stress, making me see things, and went back to studying. 10 minutes later, the bell rang again. This time, as I answered the door, I could see someone running around the side of my car to hide behind it, which was pointless because I could see through the windshield to the back window where 2 heads were visible. I left the door a crack open and walked barefoot around my car where I found James and another boy I recognized but didn't know the name of. He was the grandson of the old couple, same age as James, whose parents often visited the mom's parents. Caught, the boys gave me sheepish looks. Well, they playing ding dong ditch. What is that, Nicky Nicky Nine Doors? There's one where you kind of like light a bag of shit on fire and then ring the doorbell. What's that? Never played that, just heard about it. I asked them if he could please not ring the bell if he didn't need anything as I was trying to study. They gave me nods and ran off. Slightly annoyed, I went back inside and continued where I left off. 5 minutes later, my doorbell went off again, this time twice in quick succession. Not even bothering to get up, I opened the window and asked them to please stop with the continuous ringing, but they laughed and ran off. 5 minutes later, the bell rang again. I decided to be the bigger person and ignore them, reasoning that if I didn't give them any attention, they would get bored after a while and find something else to do. Nope. 10 minutes later, the bell rang for what it felt like the millionth time, but it was over and over and over again. I counted to 8 before I decided to being the bigger person. And I sent Linda a long, passionate, and detailed text about the boy's antics. James's older brother, Andy, came to fetch him as Linda had some serious words to say. Feeling satisfied, I went back to studying, thinking the problem was dealt with. Wrong. Tell me why, 2 days later, I have an angry woman I've never spoken to before show up at my house demanding to speak with me. Turns out it was the mother of the other boy, who we'll call Tony. When Linda heard of what the boys were doing, she informed Tony's grandparents of his behavior, who in turn told his mom, their granddaughter. Grandparents were upset because they know how overwhelmed I've been over the past few weeks with exams, and told Tony's mom she should have a talk with Tony about his inconsiderate behavior. But the mom brushed it off and said it wasn't that serious because he was just a kid and didn't know any better. Okay, so then teach him how to be better. See, this is the thing about, oh, he didn't know any better. Okay, discipline him and then he will know better. He's not gonna know better unless you teach him better. Well, Tony's grandparents didn't like that and have been giving their daughter the cold shoulder for the rest of their stay. The mom in turn came to have a little chat with me, insisting I tell her parents Tony never did anything wrong, and that it was all James who was pestering me, which of course I refused. She got angry and started to yell before my mom went all mama bear and kicked her out of the house. Thanks, Mom. This is very dumb. When she lost access to me, she got my number through Tony, who got my number through James, and began spam texting me at all hours of the day about how I was an awful person, harassing me so much I blocked her number, as I was so done with all of this. Pot, meet kettle. Somehow, I think I get where little Tony gets his behavioral issues from. It makes sense. So, am I the a-hole? P.S. My dad not being home was important because the boys knew not to ring the doorbell more than once, as my dad has a lot of meetings at home. Since my dad passed away, they reasoned the prank was harmless. I feel like this is really dumb. Like, it's almost like the mom feels like she's in trouble and now she wants to cause mischief. Like, I don't know. This is really silly. I would expect it from a young kid, but not a grown-ass woman. Not the a-hole. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. The kid deserved the blasting he got. You've been respectful, asking repeatedly for them to stop. They didn't. If this mom was a little better about teaching her kid how to respect people, this conversation never needed to happen. And granted, kids act out sometimes. They do. But when they do, you can't just let them do whatever they want. They need repercussions for doing bad things, because otherwise they will continue to do bad things. That's how society works. That's why there's things like jail. There are disciplinary measures that are taken when people do not behave. Not saying you need to send this little kid to jail, but discipline is a normal thing. And if she's not gonna do it, then you should. Not hard to see where little Tony gets his obnoxious entitlement. I said this too. Makes sense, doesn't it? So are you the a-hole for not answering when your next door neighbor rang your doorbell? No. In fact, I rarely answer my door. So maybe I'm just projecting. Not a fan of answering the door, especially when there's an election happening. Oh God. Anyone in Canada, up until recently, thank God it's over. But man, they do be coming to your house at all hours. I don't answer. I put the blinds down and don't answer. Am I the a-hole for not letting my neighbor's granddaughter participate in my autistic son's Easter egg hunt? Hi, Charlotte and Mike. Watched you forever and adore you guys. Oh, hello. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a wonderful wedding and life together. My 30 female and my husband's 32 male oldest son is 3. We have an 8-week-old infant. He's also level 2 autistic. He can communicate a little, but sometimes it takes some sleuthing to figure out what he's saying. So it's hard for him to tell him when he doesn't like something. Being autistic, it's hard for my son to participate in group activities. He normally will sit off to the side and watch everyone else play. It can sometimes take up to a week for him to feel comfortable participating with other kids. And this is only if he's seen those kids every single day, let alone random children he's never met. It's Easter, and I wanted my son to not have a repeat of last year. We took him to an Easter egg hunt, and when he tried to participate, his eggs were taken from older kids. Absolutely not. We ride at dawn for your son. I have some mini eggs. I bought some. Does he want them? Of course he does. Who doesn't want a mini egg? Have you ever heard someone ever say no to a mini egg? It doesn't happen. It's inconceivable. I got you mini eggs. Being autistic and 2 at the time, he didn't know how to react, so he stood there and let them do what they wanted. I was livid. Not only that a child would take something someone else had, but that the parents did nothing about it. I scooped him up and we went to get a special treat. This year, I decided to set up his own special Easter egg hunt. There were a bunch of eggs with treats and toys inside them, and little pretend bunnies hiding around under the trees and bushes. Oh, that's sweet. I decorated our trees and used environmentally friendly, silly string that degrades when it rains, which my husband made himself, the whole 9 yards. I wanted to not only make up for last year, but make this year something really special. Skip to the main event. My yard is fully decked out, and we bring my son outside. He's so excited. He sees all the bunnies and first is going around to all the bunnies to say hi. That is so precious. He always does this with animals, real or not. While he's running around and enjoying himself, not looking for eggs yet, but we weren't in a rush. This is his time to enjoy how he pleases. Our neighbor's granddaughter runs over and is excited to look for eggs as she runs and starts collecting them. For reference, we don't have a fence separating our yards. I know she's only 2, so I don't blame her at all for being excited, but this was my son's time. I asked her grandmother if she could please come and get her, as this was private for my son. She looked at me like I had 3 heads. She goes,
What? Why would I do that? You clearly set this up for kids.
Seriously? Even if she set it up for kids, it's a little rude to assume that a neighborhood kid could participate without asking.
Why would all of this effort be put in for just one child?
Because he deserves it, okay? This is a special circumstance.
She's 2, let her have fun.
Ignoring the fact that she completely disregarded my request, I decided to explain to her why we were doing this. I told her my son is autistic, he has trouble participating in large group activities like big Easter egg hunts, so we did this for him to have his own. She looks at me and goes,
It's just one other kid. What's the problem? What, is he gonna have an attack?
she used air quotes,
Because someone else is doing his activity? Is he that spoiled? You can obviously just put the eggs back after she finds them all.
okay, this neighbor is hella entitled. I don't know why I'm getting so irate over an Easter egg hunt, but like, this is super annoying. Again, ignoring her blatant rudeness because I didn't want to cause a scene in front of my child and her granddaughter. They don't need to see adults fighting over what is supposed to be a fun day. I told her, firstly, my son doesn't have attacks. He's autistic and gets overstimulated. Secondly, because he's autistic and only 3, he doesn't know when something is and isn't okay, like someone taking something from him. This is why he did this, so he doesn't have anyone to take anything from him and can go at his own pace. Okay, so I can understand her kind of being like a little bit like, what the f? Can't you just let her play? But after hearing that your child has special needs, she should have backed off, genuinely. Or she should have let your son play with the eggs first, and then her granddaughter can play with them later, if you're okay with it. She looked at me like I just kicked her dog.
You think my granddaughter is going to do something like take things from him? My daughter raised her right. Don't you dare insinuate that she didn't.
I mean, you kind of are saying that you're totally fine with her participating in someone else's, like, you're okay with her going and finding Easter eggs that are not meant for her. So she kind of is already doing that. And by the way, she's doing it too. It's kind of like letting another kid open someone else's birthday present.
She has so many.
At this point, I'm getting pissed. I told her I'm done arguing. This is my property, my money used to do this for my kid, and you need to get your granddaughter and leave, please, now. Period, queen. She grabbed her granddaughter by the arm and told her, come on, this woman doesn't want you to have any fun. How about you let your granddaughter have some fun by doing your own Easter egg hunt for her? Why do you need to piggyback off of someone else's Easter egg hunt? Damn. Pulling her away and grabbing the egg she collected out of her hand, she threw it back behind them, hitting my son in the back. I was going to let her keep what she collected because 1, I'm not heartless, but 2, I had a lot more I could replace it with. Us autistic moms always know to have extra just in case something gets broken. I checked on my son, made sure he was okay because he doesn't process pain normally, another trait of his autism, and he was fine. It was a plastic egg and couldn't do much damage. But when I tell you I was about to throttle this woman, that's an understatement. You have a lot of patience. Raising an autistic child, you do need a lot of patience. The fact that some parents really just don't get it, like she just like clearly doesn't understand or doesn't respect what you go through on a day-to-day basis. I think under the circumstances, it's totally fine for you to have this boundary. And at the end of the day, that's your property. And that little girl was not invited. It might seem kind of rude, but who cares? Be rude. I know young kids see fun things and everything is background noise. I'm not saying the little kid, it's her fault. But if you set a boundary and you say, listen, like this isn't for her, then the grandmother needs to respect that. I do not blame the young girl at all. However, now my son was sitting on the grass, confused about what was happening and didn't want anything to do with the eggs. Thankfully, after about an hour, he got excited again and we did his Easter egg hunt. So he still got what I wanted for him. So I'm wondering, was I an a-hole for not letting the granddaughter participate? Should I have sucked it up and let her have fun? I think at the end of the day, you were trying to do something nice for your kid. Under these circumstances, you kind of predicted what would have happened. Like, yeah, you could have and then made that decision to like not, if you saw that he wasn't participating because she was doing it. But at the same time, it's also the way that the grandmother kind of spoke to you.
Annoyingly.
Like, I wouldn't want to do anything for someone like that either. You should always ask the parent if they don't mind sharing, like cake or presents or cookies and whatever, okay? You should always ask the parent if it's okay. And if it's not okay, it might be a little bit annoying, not gonna lie, especially if it's something as simple as letting a kid find an Easter egg. I think under these circumstances, who cares? Just let him have his Easter egg hunt. She's not entitled to your front yard. Not the a-hole that grandmother sounds super entitled. You think my granddaughter would take things from him? Yes, she's literally taking things as they speak. I'd have been pointing out the grandmother is allowing the kid to steal what doesn't belong to her and making her a terrible example for anyone alive. I think that there also needs to be a certain degree of making sure your kids know that they have permission to do stuff like that. Imagine this little girl runs into someone's yard that's like a total creep that's like setting up all these little Easter eggs to like lure children, or like, you know, there's Van and he's got all these popsicles. And you can't just go up to something because it's colorful and assume that it's yours and you can take it. Are you the a-hole for not letting your neighbor's granddaughter participate in my autistic son's Easter egg hunt? I mean, to her, you're probably an a-hole, but no, you're fine. Do you still want mini eggs? I have some.